Hello. Today I will be presenting food safety genetically modified organisms. I am Takira Johnson and my partner is Amy Chong. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to take the time to discuss what is GMO. Genetically modified organisms, such as plants, animals, and microorganisms, have been genetically altered to the point where they would not naturally occur or does not exist in the environment is considered a genetically modified organism. The technology used to alter a plant, animal, or microorganism is often referred to as modern biotechnology or gene technology. Throughout the lecture, you will hear me reference altering a GMO or gene technology when referring to replacing a gene or modifying a gene in an organism. In the early 1990s, European legislations were introduced on genetically modified organisms to ensure they meet a high safety standard for consumption. We want to make sure that the food we consume, especially food that has been genetically modified, meet a certain standard before it's placed on our table in front of us for us to consume. On the next slide, I will talk more about the different assessments and the positive and negative impact of altering genes in organisms. The World Health Organization states most national authorities consider that specific assessments are necessary for genetically modified foods. Once again, when you alter an organism, you have positive and negative consequences that comes along with that. So rigorous evaluation of genetically modified organisms are necessary to regulate the consequences of the environment and human health. We want to make sure that the GMOs have met a standard that is safe for consumption, and also just to be aware of the positive and negative impacts. When altering plants, animal organisms, as I mentioned, there are both positive and negative impacts. I will discuss more pros and cons on the next slide. On this slide, I have included a chart to help you visualize the benefits and risks of GMOs. A few of the benefits that I would like to point out are that GM crops can produce herbicides to kill pests. Also, they provide a longer shelf life for certain crops. For example, fresh fruit and veggies tend to spoil quick. However, genetically modified fruits and veggies will last longer and have a longer shelf life versus those whose genes were not altered. Another example would be an apple. Genetically modifying apples to turn less brown when they cut or bruise is an example of modifying a gene in a fruit. Another pro, crops are more resistant to diseases. As mentioned, the crops that are genetically modified produce a herbicide to kill the pest. Therefore, they are more resistant to disease. There are three main health issues when discussing genetically modified organisms. They are allergic reactions, cancer, and antibacterial resistance. I will discuss more about the three significant health issues and impacts of genetically modified organisms on the human body in the next slide. Antibacterial resistance. Gene transferring due to GMOs can impact human health. Antibacterial resistance can increase the spread of infection and disease in the human population. This is because an antibiotic resistant gene is used as a marker in a genetically modified organism. That antibiotic resistant gene can then transfer to the human body or gut via consumption of the GMO food. I will also discuss antibacterial resistance later on in this presentation to give you a clear understanding. Allergic reactions. Genetically modified organisms can trigger or has the potential to trigger allergic reactions. Some genetic engineers used DNA from allergens to alter the genes in plants, animals, or organisms. This is an issue because it has the potential to contain a food allergen, causing an individual to have an allergic reaction. The big C, cancer. Researchers believe that genetically modified organisms contribute to the risk of cancer. Cancer is a mutation of diseases and is harmful to introduce new genes into the body. Introducing altered genes into a human body can potentially cause cancer and other diseases due to that gene being altered and consumed by an individual. There are also environmental consequences. The main concern of GMOs is being introduced into wildlife population. In addition, genetically engineered crops linked with their pesticide counterparts can impact the environment negatively by increasing herbicide use, increasing herbicide-resistant weeds, and also the contamination of organic and conventional crops. I'm just going to dig a little deeper about the antibacterial resistance because I feel it is an important topic to discuss when mentioning genetically modified organisms. As mentioned before, GMO food has the potential to spread infections and disease across the human population by making disease-causing bacteria resistant to current antibiotics. If an individual consumes GMO that's antibiotic resistant and that individual later receives an infection or disease, the treatment of antibiotic is less likely to be effective or may not be effective at all due to them consuming high amounts of antibacterial resistant food. The marker, antibiotic resistant marker, is used to help producers identify if the new genetic material has been transferred to the food. Also, a unique perspective that I came across while researching genetically modified organisms is the farmer's perspective. Farmers pay a high price for genetically modified seeds. This includes license fees, contracts, and inspections. Some farmers also feel as though they are being ripped off by buying genetically modified seeds because they cannot produce as much crop as they want to due to a restriction in their contract. In addition to feeling ripped off, there has been a 20-year spike as shown in the graph on this slide in seed costs. From corn and soybean, the 20-year spike has increased almost 3 times. And here I have listed references and links for any questions you might have that I didn't cover. There's a link for frequently asked questions about genetically modified foods. However, I hope I did a wonderful job of explaining food safety and genetically modified organisms, and I hope I did a great job of covering all the topics. Thank you.